though. They're
okay.
They're mountain people.
They're mountain folk.
Yeah.
They're up in them hills.
I thought we already talked about what the mountain folk are like.
I think this is
they're
the mountain folk.
No, they're the rich Appalachians.
The Appalachians.
So like the hillbillies, these are
They're the ones-
rich folk.
They're the ones that when people stop in the middle of town and tell them that you're going towards their house, they go, going up there, huh?
I found oil in my jar.
Now, I will say this. I've also met New Jersey people who are...
You come to my house, I'm gonna kill you. If you hurt my daughter, I'll put a horse in your bed.
Horse head in your bed.
Yeah.
Not the whole horse. Just a whole horse.
Can you imagine that? All right, ready? Lift him and pull.
Bill, why are you there?
I will admit, seriously, one of my favorite films. I love The Godfather. But I've never understood
Horsehead?
the horse head part and how the guy stayed asleep. Like, if someone's sneaking the head of a dead horse in my bed, I think I'd probably wake up and
You
be
know
like,
what it is? We slipped a pill in his coffee.
oh, there you go. See? You've made it all better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He was drugged.
You slipped a melatonin pill in his coffee. That is the most ironic.
It's the perfect way to get a New Jersey.
Why do I sound... I feel like I'm sounding more like... Have you guys seen Megamind?
Yes.
Do you know his mentor, the guy with the huge white hair?
That you mean that he's trying to literally copy the same person that played the
Marlon
Godfather?
Brando.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
he's
saying.
trying to be Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
There comes a time when everyone's wife.
Oh,
And then now you're trying to sound like Al from what's the family show?
Married with Children.
Yes.
I've never watched that show.
But I guess
That's
Pig. That's mine.
That's a good one,
I
man.
thought that was Family Guy. Family Hill.
Josh just
Continue.
mixed
Should we get going before we
Hank Hill.
Hank Hill?
Hey, Peggy.
That's
Is her name Peggy?
No, he
Shut up, Dale.
yeah, that's what it is. That if ever I want to do an accent, it's always shut up, Dale.
Oh.
All right. With that, welcome to the Twaddling Along Podcast. I am your host, Dan McBride, here with my brothers and co-hosts, Joshua and Jake.
What are we talking about?
That's a great question. Well, so far, let's see. We've
Jake,
covered
I was trying to
Marlon
send vibes.
Brando.
I was hoping you'd say ho, so it was like, hey ho. But
You want me to say ho?
yeah, because I want the beef off of my back.
You know, because it could either be a tool or
A tool.
A tool or a tool. Hey, we're at the paranormal week, guys.
We are
Oh crap! Is it anything to do with history?
No.
actually kind of.
Well,
Josh-
there's historical elements to it for sure.
Josh
Yes.
always wants to make this about history.
Dude, I want to make it a religious podcast,
You
but
always do want to make
you
it a religious
guys don't
podcast.
accept.
We're not ready for
You want
that.
you want to make
You want to make what we're
is
talking about.
what we're going to talk about going to be the Angels Landing of?
no, that's in Zion's National Park.
Oh, okay. That's it.
Have you guys ever hiked that?
Heck no, and I never
I
will.
don't know if I ever will.
I say there was an opportunity, and I'm horrible at hiking anyway because we have bad knees
Yes.
and I have really tight calves. So like I can walk up like 10 feet of a hill.
For anyone who
and
wants to know, yes, they are very sexy.
I appreciate that. So I hope my wife would agree. Either that or she'd go, well,
You can work on that. But yeah, no, I'll never climb that. Anyway,
Too scary.
I say the portion where they're like you have to hold on to the railing. If you have to hold on to a railing while you're hiking, that just means you're way
It's
too
not even a
close
railing.
to, like something.
Yeah, it's a chain.
It's
link.
a chain. Yeah.
No, thank you.
So,
it's like Mount Everest.
No desire.
I have no desire. And, people do whatever they want, but like, I don't want to die.
Yeah. I'm.
I feel the same.
Well,
Let me rephrase that. I want to go to heaven.
right.
See, I'm making a religious podcast.
Oh, thank you.
But I don't want to do it doing something stupid.
See, and I feel the same way about like water slides. I look up at the stairs and go, I don't want to climb that. It's too far. And then I have to go down.
Hey, I will say this. So the last water slide I went on was a cruise that I went on. I almost got stuck.
You got stuck.
It was a smaller water slide than I think they thought. There was a
Are you sure
weight
they just
limit.
weren't paying attention? They're like, wait, this is for kids. What was he doing?
Probably. It was probably two of me stacked on top of each other. And there was a hill, and I hit the top. And I could have, like, and stopped the whole water flow. I could have drowned.
See,
But
and
you didn't.
But I didn't.
you didn't. See, and I remember Lagoon. We went
Oh,
to
yeah.
Laguna Beach or whatever that's
Yeah.
called. And I remember Danny and I were walking to the top, and Danny had said very clearly, when you go off out of the slide, make sure you keep your feet together. Because, you see a lot of people that they go out and then their feet fly and then they end up going way off and hurt themselves. Well, I found out that my legs don't work that way.
Your
And
legs don't
so-
go together.
Not really well when I'm going at that momentum. So I flung out of that and I hurt myself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jake.
I know. Danny took me there. It's his fault.
Yeah, I blame myself.
But I mean, everyone else in our family was there too. And everyone commented when I got down, your legs split. Yeah, I know. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're like, thanks. Now I have a groin injury. Thank you.
Is that still open, the water park? I'm assuming it is.
It is.
God, the last couple times that I've been to Lagoon, we haven't gone there. And I just remember walking by the water park and going,
I want to go.
cesspool.
Oh,
Oh, you want to go? No.
no, not anymore.
There's enough pee in those waters that
Yeah, most of it's mine.
it's just uric acid at this point.
It's Josh acid.
Well, we're not talking about that today.
Oh,
Though that would be a good paranormal. The uric acid pee slides at Lagoon.
the pea monster that looks like
The
Josh that
pea
comes out at
monster.
nighttime.
To introduce this, I'm going to give a little bit of background. We're going to go deep into the psyche of Danny for a minute because it is my choice.
Yes.
And gosh darn it, I want to talk about my psyche.
Everyone sit down, buckle your belts.
Thank you.
Buckle your belts.
Buckle your belts.
I'd just like to point out that this topic was one of the original reasons why we
That is
started
one
this
of the original
podcast.
reasons. And I'm going to explain why it's one of the original reasons.
Yeah.
I am a child of the 90s.
No.
I am.
Wow.
I am old enough that my childhood was wholly and completely enclosed within the 90s. I didn't become a teenager until, or I became a teenager in the 90s. I lived in the 90s, and the 90s were a magical time.
Yeah, I was born.
Well, that's not why it made you magical. You were,
Jake was born.
oh, Jake, you semi-magical.
I was born at the beginning.
You were. So you could even say that you could claim you're a child of the 90s.
I was
think.
a partial child of the 90s.
So I was born in the 80s.
Nice.
And I was cognizant and aware of when the 90s started. And the 90s were a weird and wonderful world. And I think that a lot of people did, like, when we look back at the 90s, they look through it as under the guise of like Saved by the Bell kind of feeling, like everybody was like, and everybody was happy and healthy. But what I realized is that the 90s was the perfect time for paranormal. There was a lot of stuff. There was a ton of stuff that was happening in the 90s that kind of focused my little growing mind into ghosts, goblins, ghoulies, aliens, Bigfoots, and everything like that. I just did a short list. Just a short list before we get going. I promise we're going to get to what we're talking about.
You did a short list.
I did.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The 90s to me, because I was born in the end of the 90s, is the old soda cups from the mall.
Oh, with
Do you know the design? Yes.
The purple and pink design.
Yes.
That's
That's the
synonymous.
90s.
All right. First, we got to start with Unsolved Mysteries.
Ooh,
Have you guys ever watched Unsolved Mysteries?
I have.
I've watched the more recent ones. I haven't watched a lot of the older
The
ones.
Is that with
original-
what's his face?
It was
No,
with-
that's unexplained. Never mind.
yeah. Unexplained is with
William Shatner.
William Shatner, but Unsolved Mysteries is with. Hold it. Bear with me. One moment. Robert Stack.
Robert Stack.
Yeah, he was the voice of Unsolved Mysteries. Well,
Nice.
Unsolved Mysteries messed me up because Mom and Dad used to watch Unsolved Mysteries.
Nice.
And for the most part, Unsolved Mysteries was about like true crime stuff. It was, oh, this man disappeared into the night. Let's help find him. Or, oh, this family was found dead and we think it's this person, but we don't know where this person is.
So it's basically like equivalent to like cold cases.
Kind of.
nowadays.
Except, and this is a really important thing, they also threw in every single episode what I called the spooky segment, where they would talk about something. The very first episode, they talked about the Gulf Breeze UFO incident, which we're not even going to go into now. Just know that it's kind of a freaky UFO incident that happened really late into the 80s. This, I remember as a little kid watching Unsolved Mysteries and being utterly terrified, but at the same time super, super enthralled with these little spooky segments. Okay. Goosebumps started being written in 1992. I read all the Goosebumps. A couple of my favorites. I even wrote them down. Welcome to Dead House.
Mm-hmm.
Stay Out of the Basement. The Curse of the Mummy's Tomb. Do You Believe in Ghosts?
Yes.
And The Headless Ghost. Did you guys ever read any of my Goosebumps?
Yeah. Hated them.
You didn't like them?
For me, it was like, why is this scary?
Oh, see, and this is I do not know what it is about me, but I have the fear, like the big fear, like it freaks me out. But at the same time, I am like, oh, I've got to continue. I like the fear. Okay, X-Files began in 1993.
Yeah, let's be honest. You were on that all day.
I loved X-Files. I didn't start watching it until a little bit later, probably about 95 when I was about 8 years old. But big into X-Files. And it really messed me up.
For a second there, I thought you said big index files.
Big index files.
I
kept very careful track.
Flashcards.
Kept very careful track in my
Excel came out. It was the worst.
Oh my gosh, Mom's recipes.
Okay, Erie, Indiana.
Erie, Indiana.
I don't even know what that is.
I think you guys were. As a matter of fact, I don't even think you guys were born. Erie, Indiana was a television program that was centered around kids about Erie, Indiana, being an eerie place. Okay, Goosebumps, the TV show.
Oh,
I don't
that's
remember.
another one that gave me the chills.
Oh, I love it.
Do you realize they came out with a new one with Ross from Friends?
I did. I heard. He actually did a couple of the stories, like Stay Out of the Basement. It's based off of Stay Out of the Basement and a couple others.
Did I watch the movie with Jack Black a few years ago? That was fun too.
That was fun. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Another kid's show. Super into that one. Independence Day.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. See, I watch it for patriotism.
America.
We will not fall. Anyway.
And then Mars Attacks. Because I had to throw Mars Attacks in because it's one of my favorite movies of all time.
I don't even know what that is.
Mars Attacks? Listen, listeners, do yourself a favor. Go right now onto Amazon Prime and just rent it.
Is it like The Clowns?
It is as ridiculous as The Clowns.
Oh.
I mean, it is.
Okay. I recognize the.
It is so over the top
The
and
aliens.
dumb, and it is a fantastic movie. It is ridiculous. All of these things are happening all around me. I'm growing up. But we also have some really big, like, paranormal like legitimate things that were happening around. We had the Phoenix Lights in 1997. That's something that
It was to welcome my birth.
it was. Happy birthday, Josh.
We had Believe by Cher in '98.
Believe I share in 98. We had
Titanic.
That was a paranormal flap
97.
if I've ever seen one. It was like,
You know, for the longest time, I didn't even know that was a woman singing that song. I thought it was a man.
I thought it was too.
oh, share.
I know Cher is a great singer. I just I didn't
We
know
had
this.
the Belgian Wave, the Brown Mountain Lights. These are all UFO things that
The
happened in
heck
the
is
90s.
the Belgian wave?
Oh,
Just a bunch of Belgian people waving.
no. The Belgian Wave is actually kind of freaky. The Belgian Wave in Belgium, they were having like mass sightings of UFOs, and it was like not just like one or two. We're talking hundreds upon hundreds of things
they
in the
drinking?
sky. But Jake, what do you gotta?
Jake's the pessimist.
You always bring up drinking. You know, I hope that people in Belgium know that I respect them. But they were probably
Hey,
drunk.
wait a second. Doesn't your in-laws live right next to Belgium?
Netherlands.
Yeah,
close enough.
right next to Belgium.
The Bob Lazar tapes.
The Bob Lazar tapes.
You guys even know what that is? Probably
No, I
not. He's the dude that supposedly worked for
Area 51.
He's
I-
actually the reason that we have X-Files. And then we had TV programs and documentaries. A lot of them. They were always on Fox, too. I don't know what that was all about. But Fox
Conservatives.
it was always, so Bermuda Triangle, things about the Bell Witch, the Patterson-Gimli footage, that's Bigfoot.
Hey, do you realize that you got me scared of our cruise?
Did I?
because we
Because
were,
of the Bermuda
we
Triangle?
sailed into the Bermuda
That's
Triangle.
hilarious. I apologize about that. A little bit.
Was that the one where they accidentally got sucked into the vortex, what took them to the place where all of the ships and things were sailing? Oh, okay. I do remember you watching that one.
And then, of course, Alien Autopsy, Fact or Fiction. You guys were way too young for this one. This is another one people need to look up. This was purported real life footage of an alien autopsy.
And 90s can say whatever.
Oh, the
crap they
90s.
want.
It was awesome. But with all this being said, okay,
Gargoyles, Danny.
gargoyles.
I think that
Of
was early
course.
thousands.
No, but with all that being said, I think I was just primed to kind of be one of these like crazy conspiracy alien people. Like I was influenced by the world around me because in 1996 I was about to turn 10 years old. And in our local newspaper, the Deseret News, there was an article that came about. An article by
Josh is being born.
an article by a man by the name of Zach Van Eyck.
Zach Van Eyck.
Zach Van Eyck, who actually used to write a whole bunch of things. And the article was called Frequent Flyers. And in this article, he introduced a family called the Shermans and their ranch. And what was the Sherman Ranch would forever go down in history as what it's now called Skinwalker Ranch. Skin.
I remember
Walker.
hearing about Skinwalker Ranch really, really, really early.
I think to me, I think it might be a false memory, but I could swear to you that if it wasn't the original writing of this article, I read one of the follow-up articles to Skinwalker Ranch because I used to read the comics in the newspaper all the time. Like that was I loved it, especially on Sunday. And in the section that the comics was in is where this was actually purported. And I would have seen it as UFOs and I probably would have read about it. Now, in 96, I'm pretty young. I'm only 9 years old. I don't think I was like reading in-depth articles about ranches.
Aliens.
But that being said, I was aware of Skinwalker Ranch very, very, very early on, way before the book was written, way before the TV series was done. Skinwalker Ranch was something that I was aware of.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure we talked about it at our grandparents' house,
And
along with the white ape story.
I think that's exactly right. I think that it was something that was brought up and we talked about it as a family because the article Frequent Flyers isn't just about
Yeah.
the ranch. It's a big part of the ranch, but it's also Frequent Flyers is kind of just a general article that was about just UFO sightings all throughout Utah. And during that time, I mean, I wasn't the only one in the family that was watching X-Files. There was lots of us. We were all kind of obsessed with it. We were talking about aliens. We were talking about government conspiracies. I mean, it was the big kind of hullabaloo of the time.
I was playing my Game Boy. I didn't care.
And Jake was,
I was
Jake, you
-1. You were
only
3 years
3.
old. I was playing my Game Boy.
playing my Game Boy. And
So, Danny.
that didn't end for another 20 years.
Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalker
Why
Ranch.
is it now known as Skinwalker Ranch?
Well, that's a great question. Let's go into a little bit of history. Just
Oh no!
very quickly
Jake?
with the Uintah Basin, or as every single person that I have ever heard talk about it, the Uintah Basin.
Can't do that. It doesn't interpret correctly onto the podcast. They just are very
I pulled the James May.
and all people are hearing.
Get them, you guys.
Anyway, but the Uintah
The
Basin.
Uintah Basin, or the Uintah Basin. Uintah Basin is a big area within the state of Utah. It is a true basin, meaning that it was remnants of a very, very old lake, the Uintah Lake. It has all sorts of oil and gas and dinosaurs. It's got shale. It's a lowland, a highland plain. It's scrub oak.
Did you just say it has shell?
Yeah,
Yeah,
shale.
like Shell Rock,
Like
where,
Shell Rock.
Oh,
where oil is.
I was picturing just a Shell gas station. They have a
It has
Shell.
one of those too.
I think they probably do.
It just makes me laugh because I just was like, "Why is that so important?"
But this was a place it's desolate. I mean, it is I'm going to offend people that live in the Uintah Basin right now, but it's not the most pretty place
They
in the
don't have
entire
electricity
world.
over there.
And it was, I mean, the history of the place is really fascinating because a lot of the people who went into this place kind of reported that it was kind of a spooky place right off the bat. I mean, Father Escalante, when he went into, kind of said that he just didn't feel good about it. That it was bereft of the spirit of God, I think is the quote.
Yes, he and that's back in the 1770s.
Yep. The early Mormon pioneers,
Mhm.
they sent down a lot of people, and all the people came back. I actually think I've got the quote. Let's see exactly what they said. No. Maybe I do. One vast contingency of waste and measurably valuelessness, excepting for nomadic purposes, hunting grounds for Indians, and to hold the world together. That's how they describe the Uintah Basin.
Yeah, and they started those reports in 1860, and they went for quite a long time until some military came and built some things over there.
Yes, Fort Duchesne specifically.
Or for our non-Utah people, Duchesne.
Yep, it's Fort Duchesne. I gotta love it. Every single time you can tell someone who's not been around Utah at all when they're talking about it.
Hurricane.
Here in the Uintah Basin at Fort Duchesne lives aliens. It's like, no. Fort Duchesne, Uintah Basin. That's how we pronounce it here in Utah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that fort was established for a couple different reasons. Number one, they had put a Ute reservation on there, the Uintah Ore Reservation. See, I just did it.
You did.
Uintah Reservation.
But the really crazy thing about this fort is it was actually one of the original forts of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Yes.
Now, do you guys know about the Buffalo Soldiers?
Yep, they were led by Buffalo Bill.
No.
Oh.
The Buffalo Soldiers were an all-black cavalry unit, the very first
awesome.
of its kind. And they were sent over to kind of deal with Indian uprising, to deal with the Mormons, and they in Fort Duchesne kind of existed, and they were buried there. As a matter of fact, there is a burial site and a plaque and everything of the Buffalo Soldiers. And where Skinwalker Ranch was very, very close to where this fort was, and even the writings of the time reported that there were weird things happening.
Yes, strange noises was reported in the newspaper back in 1886.
Yep. Fire in the sky. Lights and candles that seemed to evaporate into the air. There's a lot of weird, kind of funky reports that are kind of surrounding that.
Interesting.
And the Uintah Basin kind of continued onward. I mean, I've got a whole article that I brought. I'm not going to read it right now, but it talks about UFO sightings in the Uintah Basin that keep buzzing. It's kind of a fun one because it goes into like what they actually look like, what the 13-year-old drew, what the UFO looked like, and it's kind of a cool drawing. It's become kind of famous in the UFO world because it's one of the first times that it's got like a glowing flying saucer.
Interesting.
But it's the Uintah Basin, for all intents and purposes, I think it's been described as a hotbed of UFO activity.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about Roswell, we talk about Area 51, we talk about all these places. But actually, per capita, there are more sightings in the Uintah Basin than there are in any of those places. It's kind of a spooky
Which
place.
I find interesting that it is such a desolate place.
It is.
That you have a few towns in the Uintah Basin, but a majority of it is native reservations.
Yep.
And so they're majority in
Dry farming, a
Yep.
lot of dry farming, a lot of low level mesas.
Yep.
A lot of, it's quiet and it's dark.
Yep.
One of my favorite comments that I read when I was doing research on this is someone like, this is where Kurt's the Cowardly Dog lives.
It's true.
That is a fantastic.
See? If you guys want to go watch Kurt's Cowardly Dog, that's what takes place at this poor ranch.
Oh.
I honestly.
So that means hunchbacks out there?
Hey,
You might be.
there are stories.
Now, I just like to point out, you brought up the Buffalo Soldiers, Danny. Did you know that one of them was a Freemason?
Yes, and there are Freemason markings everywhere.
And so some believe that one of them cursed.
He was
the
inviting
area.
the aliens.
It wasn't just one of them. A lot of
Oh
them.
my gosh, aliens are Freemasons.
Oh my.
A lot of the cavalry members were Freemasons.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The other problem was at that time, the way that they established the Uintah Basin, there were literally areas within the Uintah Basin that were completely lawless. Completely. Around Fort Duchesne, there were literal towns that were not covered by either Indian reservation leaders and the United States government. They were no man's land. So places where Buffalo Bill really did actually go, and where, you know, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were purported to go. I mean, these were places of prostitution, drinking, and death is what they describe them as.
Oh my.
Like
gosh.
where it was just
aliens went to the
And E.T. reports up the wazoo is what this article says. I love it.
E.T. reports up the wazoo.
Yep.
Oh, that's another thing
I
that
love the
came out
wazoo.
at the end of the 80s, I guess.
Oh,
That probably
E.T.
spooked you.
It did. It freaked me out really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, E.T.
So Skinwalker Ranch, what's happened there?
So
We keep talking about general.
we do. And the reason is I'm trying to paint a broad picture and we're going to bring it down. One of the things that I want to talk about is the name. Skinwalker Ranch. The very first thing that we kind of have to get out of the way is that Utes do not believe in skinwalkers in the traditional sense. A Ute tribe does not have an equivalent of what the Navajo have, which is a skinwalker. Now, there are some belief among the tribe and among other people that the Navajo and the Ute were not very friendly. And then there's plenty of reports about it, especially the Navajo against the Ute. The Navajo were not very nice to the Utes, and where they kind of butted up against each other, there was contention, and there was a belief that the Navajo cursed the Ute with a skinwalker. Now, I will tell you, I've read quite a bit about this, and in the book by George Knapp and Dr. Colm Kelleher, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, they kind of talk a little bit about that. That doesn't seem like it could be the case. Number one, a Navajo is never going to on purpose send a skinwalker because it is such an abhorrent thing in the culture.
Yeah, they refuse to talk. It's just like the one of the other topics that we talked about. You just don't mention it.
Yeah.
See, and I just read that they had cursed the land itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because back in 1789, so around the time of our dear friend Father Escalante, a treaty was broken with the Navajo and Utes, which caused some battles and things before the Mormon pioneers arrived. So
I mean, I think it's actually more unfortunate that the name Skinwalker has kind of been connected to this, because for all intents and purposes, the stories that are coming out of this ranch, they're not like a traditional skinwalker story that you would hear. You know, there's not a whole lot of shape-shifting. There's not a whole lot of like cursed ground, supposedly. What had happened on this ranch is kind of everything else. So we've got this family. The family of the Shermans. Shermans moved from New Mexico. They were looking for a large area to put their cattle. They were Black Angus breeders. The father, was a very, very smart guy. And I think that that's something that's lost sometimes in the story, because you read about ranchers and your first kind of thought is the backwoods yokels that are being abducted by aliens, a la The Simpsons. You know what I'm talking about? But the reality is this guy was actually incredibly intelligent. He was college educated. He had really advanced knowledge of genetics. I mean, he was doing a lot, and he was breeding these beautiful cattle that were very, very, very expensive. And the idea was that he wanted a place that he could kind of be left alone.
He was alone.
And it was, yeah. I mean, if you ever look up where this is, it is kind of in the middle of nowhere. You know, it's the closest town is Fort Duchesne, and I think that's a population of like 2,000. I mean, it's just kind of in the middle of nowhere. So they move into this house, this ranch, and they notice some weird things right off the bat. You know, they notice chains that have been pushed into the ground as if they were holding big, vicious dogs on the outside. They notice on the inside, the locks are on the inside of the doors and on the outside of the doors. there's just some weird, funky things that are kind of happening around there. Now, for the sake of, we're going to say skepticism, there has been a lot of interviews done by people who lived at Skinwalker Ranch before, and different reports. Some people say that absolutely nothing happened. It was just a normal ranch. I don't know what the big deal is. Other people said, oh yeah, there was some weird things going on. So I always want to take things kind of with a grain of salt, because, you know, there is always that chance that these are just trumped up stories. But, and I think this is important, the Shermans of Skinwalker Ranch have never made money off the story, ever. They didn't make money off of the book, which is The Hunt for the Skinwalker. They didn't make any money off of any of the television shows. They actually sold the ranch at a loss.
Yeah, it was only, I looked it up, it was $500,000 when they sold it, and it was 512 acres of land.
Yeah.
That's imparted. So that's like a huge,
It's a huge loss.
Even in the 90s
Yeah.
when they sold it.
It's a pretty significant loss. And so I'm not going to say that lends credence to the story. All I think is they didn't really have a reason to be making up a lot of this story.
Yeah. And I just want to set this up. So the Skinwalker Ranch, the house that Danny's talking about, is basically its backyard is this bluff that rises up, this kind of range looking thing in the mountains.
It's a mesa.
Yeah. And so you're kind of in this bowl. This ranch is in a bowl. And that's where all the stuff is happening. And like I said, it's 512 acres. It's quite a large ranch for out here in Utah, but it is kind of in this centralized bowl area that this stuff's going on.
Yeah, it follows a creek bed.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's called Dry Creek Bed or Dry Creek Gorge or something like that, which plays a huge part in a lot of the story. Because as this family moves into this ranch, I mean, right off the bat, the creepiest things start to happen. They start to have cattle mutilation right off the bat, where they are finding full cattle drained of their blood, tongues cut off, sexual organs cut off, and nothing else cut off. It didn't look predatory. It didn't look anything like that.
Well, and it was cut off with precision.
Yeah, like really like surgical precision.
See, and when I first heard about it, it was talking about that, as well as that skin was turned inside out. So like the animals were turned inside out per se.
And these were the ones that were found.
Yeah.
There's stories of, and in this book, and I encourage anybody, if you're into this kind of spooky stuff, find this book, because it really is a fun read. And it's, it's one of those intrigue ones, but they talk about chasing after cattle, knowing that the cattle is on the run, tracking the cattle, and finding the cattle footprints just gone. I mean, just as if the cattle just disappeared. Like there's these kind of creepy things that happen. They start to see these huge wolves, these giant, big old wolves. So much so that they had one of these wolves attack one of their cattle.
It seemed docile at first,
like creepily docile, and they shot it multiple times, not only with just like a magnum, but with like, we're talking a 30-06.
Yeah.
Like blasting at this dog, and it kind of just trotted away. And the wife afterward went to the reservation police and went to the surrounding officials and said, hey, we can't have these wild wolves around. What do we do? And they kind of thought that she had gone crazy.
Yeah, because wolves and that, there's coyotes.
Yeah.
But coyotes are relatively small.
Very much so.
Wolves are a lot larger.
And this was years and years before even like the introduction of the gray wolf back into Yellowstone. And way, way before we ever had the wolves kind of come back into Utah.
Yeah.
So, and this is kind of a topical thing, but one of the things they talk about is the way she describes them. She describes them as if they are dire wolves.
Ooh.
which is all over the news right now.
This is, if anybody knows, they're supposedly bringing back the dire wolves, but they're not actually bringing back the dire wolves, but they just genetically altered the wolves. But it could be the dire wolves, but blah, blah, blah.
That they are alive and yeah, whatever.
That they're not very friendly. Did you guys read that?
Yep.
Not very friendly.
I wouldn't be either.
So this is happening, and these these poor farmers, the Shermans, are just kind of at their wits' end. They're having like a really, really hard time with it, and things start escalating. It's not just cattle mutilation. It's not just these weird wolves that are showing up. They also are having like what you would consider to be poltergeist stuff happening, where they will be in the house and things just disappear. And then they reappear at the weirdest place.
Yeah.
They talk about like a post-hole digger, where one day Dad was out digging posts, holes, literally just turned his back for a minute, turned around, and it was gone. And he was pissed at his family. He's like, what the
Pulling
heck?
pranks. Yeah.
Like seriously, like, what are you guys doing? And the family's swearing up and down, we have nothing to do with it. They go back outside and they see the post digger 20 feet up in a tree. I mean, some really kind of funky, weird
Those are
things.
some very clever teenagers.
That's true.
Yeah.
But then they start having UFOs.
In the sky.
But not in the sky.
Ooh,
They
even
see
worse.
some UFOs in the sky, but what they see is they see what looks like an RV that comes and park on their land.
And you have to remember, this is like, what would you say, mid 20th century by this point?
Oh no,
Or
this
earlier?
is the early 90s.
Oh, the 90s.
Now remember, they thought it was an RV, and then they went closer, and they looked more like a fridge.
It did, a very large fridge. And then
I just want to picture what that. Wait, it's a fridge.
and then what happened?
The fridge opened and there was their cows.
Didn't it go up in the air?
They chased it as if they was driving behind, and it was like kicking up dust, and all of a sudden it just kind of flew up in the air.
Oh,
right
my.
over the top of a fence. Kind of like, they don't actually describe it as flying, they describe it as jumping over the fence. As if they were following it and just kind of hopped the fence.
I'd want to live in a fridge spaceship too.
But then they start seeing, they start seeing guys that are coming out of these fridge spaceships.
6 to 7 feet tall,
Huge,
faceless.
absolutely no
Ooh,
face.
Face, that's my nightmares.
Some really kind of creepy stuff going on. And they go and investigate. They look at the shoe prints and everything, and the shoe prints are off. It looks like they're too big or too small or all these things. And so finally, at their wits' end, they sell the place.
Mm-hmm.
And who they sell it to
Is a crazy guy.
is a crazy fella.
Bigelow.
Robert Bigelow. Now, we got to do just a little bit of background on old Bobby Bigelow.
Mr. Bigelow.
Because Robert Bigelow not only has a connection with Utah, he actually has a connection with some of our representatives and a couple people around here. Robert Bigelow is kind of an eccentric billionaire. He's the kind of billionaire I want to be. He made all of his money in commercial property. He started the best budget hotel chain.
Gotcha.
Just made all the money, just tons and tons of billions and billions of dollars. Then he started Bigelow Space, where he was actually, developing and building things for spacecraft. And then he used part of his money to do a National Institute of Discovery Science. He established this scientific group,
Or NIDS.
or NIDS.
Because, NIDS just sounds better.
The National Institute of...
And for that professional name, they were not doing all that professional stuff. That being said, they were professional people. It was staffed by really high-level scientists and military personnel.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of them have come out later. Dr. Colm Kelleher is one of the ones who wrote the book. He was part of it. There was several colonels that were involved with it. It was Robert Bigelow's attempt to normalize looking for UFOs, kind of an X-Files-esque thing.
Mm-hmm.
They really got into not only the Skinwalker Ranch, but kind of the fringe sciences in general. So they looked really heavily into afterlife experiences. They looked heavily into astral projection. Just kind of the funky things. As a matter of fact, if you've ever seen The Men Who Stare at Goats, you guys ever even heard of that?
No.
I've heard the name, but I actually have no idea
I
what
stare
it
at
is.
goats sometimes.
So it's a really funny show. But the colonel that's in that movie is actually the colonel that was involved with Robert Bigelow. So Robert Bigelow buys the property from the Shermans under one condition, that the caretaker remain the Sherman
Gotcha.
family.
He was going to be the farm manager.
He was going to be in charge of the cattle that was running. He was going to be doing everything there. And then he sent a team down, and that team went looking for aliens or whatever the heck was going on.
Yeah.
Because even at this point, we say aliens, but it was just everything.
Yeah.
All sorts of weird stories were happening.
Another funny comment. It's like, so what paranormal experience did you have? Yes.
Yeah, honestly.
So, what happened while they were at the ranch?
They died.
All of them.
They're
Just
all gone.
gone.
I'd just like to point out one visited me last night
And was it
in preparation for
George
this.
Knapp?
Yeah. He said this.
He's still alive, but
It's all... And then that's all he said.
and that's it.
Yep, he just left. And I was like, well, that's a jerk move.
NID sets up a really, really complicated surveillance system.
Mm-hmm.
A really advanced surveillance system where they were looking not only at video, they were looking at electronic and electromagnetism in the area. They had seismographers. They had all sorts of things. The thing that drives Jake nuts
Here it comes.
is that for all intents and purposes, they didn't find much.
No.
Not
Hardly anything.
when it comes to actual scientific things, they find nothing. The things that do happen are weird malfunctions.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking where video would just up and disappear, where the electromagnetic and seismographers would just go ape wire and everything like that. However, what did happen is people had experiences. And some of the experiences that they had, although it can't be quantified, which is what we want as a scientific community,
Yeah,
you
to
want
prove.
quantifiable proof. You want something that you can point to and say, this is what is happening. The experiences that they had ended up kind of really affecting some of them to a point where, even George Knapp right now, this is his now lifelong mission, is to kind of try to figure out what's going on. So, big things. Sightings of otherworldly creatures. There is a portion of the book that I consider to be one of the most terrifying things that I've ever read, where several of the scientists go up on the bluff and they're setting up this kind of video system and surveillance system where they're going to be looking out, and they're looking specifically for what they are calling the portal.
Mm-hmm.
It's that every once in a while, just in the middle of the sky, it almost looks like a window opens up, and through the window you can see a different sky. It's a weird kind of thing that was going on there.
What, Terry Sherman, was that his name?
Yeah.
I remember one of the things is that it was in the middle of the night. He saw it open up, and he could see clear blue sky through it.
Yeah, really weird stuff. And not only that, but they would see like crafts go in and out. So these scientists set this up, and they are looking at this place where they see a portal open up. And what comes out of the portal is what they describe as being a humanoid, but that features defy normal human anatomy. So they are sitting on top of this hill, and a couple 1,000 feet away, they are watching what looks to be this funky humanoid come out, wander around, and then disappear. And they freak out. Like in the book, they kind of go through like what their thought process is. And one of the guys who is looking at the binoculars is literally like almost screaming to himself because of what's happening, and then starts saying weird stuff like, it's looking at me, it sees me, and knows what I'm thinking.
Isn't that the guy? He had the red, what's that ray vision?
The UL, or not the ULV, ultraviolet.
Infrared.
Because like one guy, he was seeing things clearly, where the other guy was like, I don't know what's going on.
And he could only see like the blurriness. Yeah. So there's like, and they are screaming, and this poor guy kind of has a mental breakdown and has to leave the ranch afterward, which
Jeez.
I mean, I'm going to too. They saw a whole bunch of unexplained lights in the sky, and the big thing that Robert Bigelow wanted to kind of do is he wanted to disprove that it was just normal airplanes or anything like that. And so they had like advanced, not like full on radar, but they had the ability to track and see what was actually heading in and out of the area. And for all intents and purposes, they could just never figure it out. Now we're talking little lights in the sky. I don't think anybody ever saw giant craft like the Shermans did, but they had a lot of unexplained lights in the sky. Let's see.
And so this was after the Sherman. So this was the latter 90s, correct? Or
This
was
is the latter 90s. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the late 90s. They had physical sensations and anomalies. Team members would report being touched all the time. They would be walking around and they would feel people, touch them, grab them, and they would have sudden changes in temperature.
Those aliens were groping.
And what's crazy is that this is something that's pretty darn common, right? Like, and you could probably explain it away as a psychological effect. You know, a lot of people, when they go into the supposed quote unquote haunted houses, they're, oh, it's a cold spot. The reality is it's just your body going through some stressful situation. The weird thing about this is that,
or is it?
oh,
Jake,
dun,
I stole your line.
Oh, shoot.
But anyway,
the weird thing is that what they felt was nausea and disorientation. It wasn't just cold. It was they were getting physically ill and they were having vertigo-like symptoms.
and that's the thing I've watched, and we'll probably talk about this. The new series that's still coming out, or at least was for a few years. The people were being harmed to the point that they had to close off the ranch to all public because people were experiencing things and would end up with serious injuries that were unexplainable.
Let's see. Some of the other phenomenon, interactions with the environment, lots of orbs. Orbs going left and right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Objects moving on their own, tools and everything like that. There was a lot of reports of what they called, what do they call it? Predator-like instances. So if anybody has ever seen the movie Predator, the Predator has like a cloaking mechanism where it almost makes him invisible, but not. It makes him kind of this shiny mirror-like thing that runs through the forest and the jungle. And they would report things like that. Like, oh, there's this weird thing that is just going through and we're almost seeing it, but we're not quite seeing it. We're picking it up on the infrared, but then we're not picking it up on the infrared. And the hard part is all these researchers are dedicated scientists. And unlike the show, which the show drives me nuts a little bit about this, these guys really were looking for evidence. And at the end of their kind of experience, they didn't have it. Mm-hmm. The evidence just was not there. It really wasn't. They had a lot of anecdotal stuff. They had a lot of personal experiences, but when it came to like stuff that you can put in a white paper that can be peer reviewed, it's just not there. Mm-hmm. There's just not anything there. And so it comes with a bunch of questions for me. Number one, is it even real?
Yes.
Josh says yes. Jake?
I'm the skeptic.
Jake says no. I have to kind of be in the middle with this one.
Oh, that's cute.
Because in my heart of hearts, I want to be like, oh, there's the mysteries. There's got to be some mysteries in the universe. But I can't help but wonder, was this just everybody getting freaked out? Kind of like a bunch of Boy Scouts around a campfire. You know, can you psych yourself up enough that you can experience a mass hysteria event? And I just don't know. I would like to think that maybe there's something weird going on there. And I will tell you, I have driven up there. You're not supposed to drive to the ranch itself anymore. They've got big old signs, but I went as far as you possibly could.
Danny was stepping on
to the stop sign. And it is kind of a spooky place. Now, I don't know if that's just because I'm going to it and I already know the history of it. And I'm like, oh, I'm freaking myself out. But it is spooky enough that like you just feel off. Like, and I don't know how else to describe it. You just feel weird.
And that's where I'll come in. And this is why I believe it is true. Not necessarily that they're seeing the aliens or what they're seeing, but the series that Danny said that kind of drives them nuts, which absolutely, it's total for TV entertainment.
It's like Ghost Adventures meets Aliens.
Yes.
I mean, it's...
But one of the things they did prove was there are random spikes of radiation throughout the entire ranch. And they said this can do some crazy things to the mind. And so a lot of the times they kind of came to the conclusion that a lot of the things that they were seeing or experiencing was because of radiation sickness. Mm-hmm. And so people, and it would come in fluxes. They measured this over a long period of time. And there was a time during the year when the radiation was up and then it would go away. So it was kind of a thing. So they're curious if there is some sort of radioactive material on the premises that is emitting radiation that's causing these crazy mental things.
It very well could be. There are things that are happening on that ranch that are weird, though.
Yeah.
I don't care what people say. The cattle mutilation
Radiation.
is weird.
Radiation can cut your balls off.
It really, but
That's a
like,
happy thought.
and but the thing is so cattle mutilation isn't something that's just a woohoo story. It is verifiable. I mean, you can go on and see pictures of suspected cattle mutilation with these precision cuts, with the drained blood, with everything like that, and it's just something that is odd.
Yeah.
And I have to wonder, like, what the heck is going on there?
Wiley Coyote.
The coyote,
Yeah.
Wiley Coyote.
Wiley Coyote.
Was
Wiley-
the road runner running through the...
Wiley Coyote just like to drink the blood.
Yeah, he just decided that he needed a little bit of a different hobby.
So
So he's a
this-
little bit more sophisticated.
So cutting off testicles and sucking blood.
Yep.
So Wiley,
he does it
it's
with-
not it's
he
not
does it
Wiley
with pres-
Coyote anymore. It's Wiley Chupacabra.
That's right. He does it with such precision you'd have no idea.
So the question I have is...
Danny's doing a pity laugh.
Oh, you're ready? See, now you grew up in the 90s where you were afraid of... When
By
you
the
were
way-
afraid of aliens and different stuff. I grew up in the thousands where it was AI and simulation. What if what they are seeing is just projections to make them believe what they're seeing?
So it's funny that you say that because there's a lot of people that think, out in the middle of nowhere, away from prying eyes, is a really good place to do a psychological kind of experiment on people.
Aliens.
Not even aliens, but let's say, how do you test to see how a person's going to react to an unexplained event?
Yeah. And
you can't in a clinical setting, you can develop a test where this happens, but it's never going to be real life because of the ethics involved, right? You can't ethically, psychologically torture a person. That's what they got in trouble with. What is the Princeton?
no, it was the Stanford prison,
There you go, the Stanford prison.
which is
experiment.
also a very interesting.
So some
experiment.
people, the conspiracy theorists out there, say maybe it really was just all the government. Maybe they were just
Yeah, let's pick on this ranch.
really. I mean, just
Can you imagine?
It's all a hoax.
Just you're sitting there and you're like, you know what sounds kind of fun? Let's see if we can use our new technology to cause someone to just lose their mind.
Ooh, I just had a thought.
Josh had a thought.
Have you guys heard? I'm pretty sure it's a book, but it's a story of someone who wrote a letter to a house that was up in New England that it would tell them things about that house, and they would keep writing and writing and writing, and it started getting super personal details that there was no way that they weren't spying on them. I'm trying to remember what that is. I wonder if a family feud hundreds of years ago, and their sole purpose is just to prank this property.
So Josh is going back to the ghost type sentiment. Yeah.
No, not ghosts. It's a family tradition passed down.
Oh, you
Oh,
mean
there you
Circular?
go.
I was about to say,
Generations.
I'm like,
that the one person like Joe Bob, who's the neighbor. Every summer, he and his boys go out, and it's just one big prank that they're
it's
always playing.
basically the Hatfields and McCoys of the West, but this time you don't know who the McCoys are, and it turns out they're the neighbor, but all along you thought it was aliens.
Yeah, I don't know.
see, my thought is, we've all been in situations where you're outside by yourself, maybe in some different various places. I've talked about before, even, when I was a janitor working in this random clubhouse that was kind of really in the middle of
At then,
the huge open area. Now it's surrounded by houses and stuff, but you are in a position where sometimes you're on edge,
Mhm.
and then you start to experience weird things where noises suddenly sound a little bit more realistic than other times. you feel a presence behind you and you turn and there's nothing there and you're like, whoa. Or you hear footsteps and there's no footsteps there. It's almost like your brain is wanting to give you a reason for being on edge.
Yeah, get out of the. Yeah, no, I actually do believe that very well could be exactly what people are experiencing out there. You know, it is desolate. It is in the middle of nowhere. It is, you are alone by yourself, and maybe it's your brain's defense mechanism telling you, you don't need to be in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Get out of here. Let's kind of create these scenarios. And maybe, you know, the stories that the Shermans told were just trumped up stories to try to get kind of sympathy from the surrounding people.
Or was it to keep people away from him wanting to be alone?
And maybe. I mean, there's so many different things, and that's what kind of makes the Skinwalker Ranch a really kind of fun and exciting local legend. Number one, because it's not local anymore. I mean, this has gone worldwide. Skinwalker.
Joe Rogan talked about it.
Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch is and has been like a huge thing and will continue to be a huge thing just because of kind of the mystery that surrounds this place. And the question that always lingers in the back of people's minds of, is it real? Is it not? You know, you've got legitimate scientists out there that are saying that something is going on out there, that it is weird, it is unnatural. Now, I am having now worked around scientists, that means less to me than it once did. Like, it was one of those things like, oh, well, they're scientists, of course. But when you work around scientists long enough, you realize they're just people, you know. Now, could there be something weird going on out there? Maybe.
I'm going to bring this up. What if there is something happening, but we aren't scientifically far enough along to describe what that scientific thing is happening?
Ooh, what's that quote? Something about science being so advanced it seems like magic to us. Have you guys ever heard that
science? Quote? Yeah, I feel like that was like.
Isn't that from Thor?
Hold on.
Oh yeah, he said that science and magic are one and the same here.
Yeah.
In Asgard. But you think about that, the things that we've been able to discover that have always been there, but have only been discovered more recently.
Well, I mean, for this particular part of Utah, I mean, for the longest time, people had like year-round been hearing like these weird roars and stuff like that. Only come to find out that it's
Indian.
It's the plates below the earth that are moving around the area there, and it's one of those. It's like, could that also be, you know, when your brain experiences a very constant motion or noise, does that cause
or
it
lack thereof?
Yeah, does that cause it to do it? Where, I mean, they put people in places where they have a high pitch for a while, and they see, it drives people to do things, and so it's one of those that I'm one of those that, would it be really cool if it was aliens? Yes. Like, would it be cool if we got to experience some type of, you know, extraterrestrial experience? Yes, because I don't know. I'm just one of those guys that's like, I don't think aliens are going to come here and take it over, because I think aliens pass by and go, ew. What have you done?
What are those dirty apes doing down there?
So if they're coming, I think it's really, we're a zoo. It's kind of, they come and they look and go, oh, cute, and then go away. But that's one of those that it's only if you really, and I also just don't feel like I don't think they want to hang out.
Yeah, why would they go to the middle of the desert?
Why would they want to go to Uintah Basin?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe the deserts, they come and they go, oh, it's so beautiful. Oh, that cow's in the way.
I mean, I will tell you,
snip off its testicles, get it out of there.
I will tell you this: if you talk to a conspiracy theorist, the thing that they're going to say is there are some places on the earth that just have a certain magnetism that might draw people to them, and maybe
the aliens flying by and also goes, oh no, my ship.
Yeah, maybe.
Skunk.
Or maybe, you know, one of the theories is that this is a perfect place to open and close a wormhole. And it just so happens to be out in the middle of the desert for us, but for the other side, it could just be like a vast city, you know? There's so
I'm
I
too
don't
lazy.
I know I don't want to get into like the deep conspiracies because I've looked at all.
I
of
say
them,
if ever I'm in a
position.
position where I'm super comfortable, I don't want to go places. So it's one of those, as an alien, I'd be like, I'm in utopia. Why would I want to go there? I just unless I guess maybe it's like, what would be fun? Let's play a prank on that person over there for like 20 years.
Well, it's that I think someone described it as the Lagoon Zoo hypothesis, that if you're at Lagoon and having a good time, you have to at least go look at their terrible zoo at least once.
Their petting zoo with the really sad looking donkey.
Exactly. That
I don't even think that's there anymore.
that is just so terrible. Maybe that's what the aliens are. Maybe they're like, well,
They're like, oh,
we
look at
have
them.
to go look at the Earthlings, throw them a bone or something. I don't know. I lean more towards your side, Jake. When it comes to kind of the rational thought of it, because I really do think if there is something going on there, it's going to be like deep underground noises. It's going to be radiation. It's going to be something that can be eventually explained. What I want to know is, if that's the case, then what's up with the human mind that this is the place that we go to? Why is it that when these things do happen, these high-pitched noises and everything, why is it that we go to strange creatures that look humanoid and lights in the sky and everything like that?
It's a phobia.
Oh, Josh,
I have it.
it's a phobia.
Josh has it.
Anything that looks humanoid. For example, little shout out to the new Jurassic World movie. Have you seen the new T-Rex?
No. Does he have feathers?
The Thing of Nightmares. No, the exact
Wait, the
opposite.
new one that's going to be coming out, or
Yeah, with Scarlett Johansson. They created a new T-Rex, and it is the thing of literally nightmares. But
no feathers.
no feathers.
It literally was just a gigantic chicken that couldn't run more than like 5 miles an hour.
Have you guys heard like the scientific, not the scientific, but have you heard like what they think the T-Rex sounds like when they they did its vocal cords? And all they've done is they've taken like a chicken. well, it kind of, except that they've taken a chicken and like
dropped it.
they've dropped it down. It's actually kind of freaky. Like it's like it. You hear it, and there's like this lizard part of your brain that goes, that kind of makes me want to run away, and I don't know why.
Well, good news is for what they're being able to tell, you could have easily walked away. So there wasn't a whole lot of speed.
I'm
going.
sorry. Have you seen chickens chase people? I'm scared.
I've been chased by chickens.
I lived in the Philippines. Chickens were everywhere, and I loved watching chickens. I
Chickens
just
are
thought
really
it
fun.
was the most funny thing.
All right. Well, final words, everybody.
Oh, we're already at the end?
We are at the end.
Wait. Here's the
Barely
here's the
even hit
T-Rex.
on anything.
Is everyone ready?
Yes.
I'm ready.
Oh no, sorry. That's Jurassic Park. This is how it probably sounded.
Sounds like someone revving their engine.
Okay. Final words from you, Joshua.
Final words. I believe there are things that are unexplainable on our Earth, but it will only be a matter of time before all things are revealed unto us.
Oh, that was deep. Jacob.
Aliens.
I have a feeling that if ever I got abducted by aliens, it would probably be while I was in a porta potty or something, hanging out. Like we would go looking for the
Dude,
aliens,
me
and then
too.
I'd have to go to the bathroom.
See, and
I'd be taken.
when I was 11 or 12 and first moved downstairs, there was a fear that, when they're going to get me is when I'm having to go to the bathroom, and then I'm going to have to hold it the entire time that I'm up there.
Well, the common belief, Danny, is they're going to probe and they're going to see.
Wait, so does that mean when we're not looking for aliens, that's when they strike?
Oh,
This
everybody
is-
looking for aliens all the time.
Everyone,
I don't
this
knock
is announcement
aliens.
from the Twaddling Along podcast. Stop looking, and they'll be here.
My final thoughts.
That'd be sad.
This is Arthur C. Clarke, who did this quote.
Ooh.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. That was a quote that I was
Oh
looking
yeah,
for.
that was the one.
So wait, one more time.
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And I've been thinking about this a lot as we've been talking about this and as I've been preparing for this. What we see even today, if you were to go back even 200 years,
Oh, yeah.
people are going to think that we live amongst wizards. Even just the very act of turning on a light would be so unbelievably amazing to a person 300 or 400 years ago that this world that we live in could be described as being magical. And what I think that we see when we have stories like this, Skinwalker Ranch or the Phoenix Lights or anything like that, is maybe what we're seeing is science beyond what we understand. Maybe 20 years, 40 years, 80 years, 100 years away in the future. Or maybe it's technology that we already have that just hasn't been shown to us.
I want a freaking bulb of light that I can have as a pet that will just
Or-
go around and cause mayhem.
I'll throw even a bigger one out. Maybe it's technology of the past we've forgotten.
Oh, and with that, thank you
Aliens.
so much for joining us at the Twaddling Along Podcast. Next week, it is the human condition, and I believe, Jacob,
Jacob.
it is yours.
Oh, crap.
Any spoilers and or sneak peeks?
The spoiler is that I haven't thought about it yet. But I will. Maybe we'll talk about the forgetfulness of men
The forgetfulness of man.
and why women can constantly know where a man's
Wallace.
set of keys are, their wallet.
That is
their...
so true. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
we're not going to get involved with it now, Joshua. We're going to keep it. Hold on to it.
If you'd like to hear after Twaddling Along, visit us at
Our Patreon
in
page.
West Jordan, Utah.
Yeah, now people are going to think we're swearing.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks, Josh.
Hey, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week.
Talking about the porta potty. Yeah.